The story begins with a young couple, Nate and Elena, who stumbled across the cabin while hiking. It was hidden in a clearing, walls covered in ivy, windows shattered. It looked like it hadn't seen life in decades. But something about it called to them. After a few minutes, they dared to peek inside, and found what looked like a preserved living space, abandoned but intact. A single chair in the middle of the room, facing the front door. And on the walls, a strange pattern of symbols carved deep into the wood, surrounding the chair like some ancient ward. I mean, who thinks, hey, creepy abandoned cabin, let's go inside, right? But curiosity can be dangerous, and for Nate and Elena, this curiosity would open a door that couldn't be closed. As dusk fell, the couple set up camp outside the cabin. But as the night settled, strange sounds began to echo through the woods, the crackling of branches, footsteps, and then, a low, rhythmic knocking. They ignored it at first, brushing it off as animals, maybe just the wind. But then Elena saw it, a shadowy figure standing in the cabin doorway, completely still. Just watching. Yeah, at this point, I'd be sprinting back to the car. But they decided to investigate. The next morning, Nate decided to take a closer look inside, convinced it was just their minds playing tricks. But what they'd find would be the start of something much worse. When Nate stepped inside the cabin that morning, he noticed something new: footprints, faint but visible, leading in a perfect circle around that old chair. The symbols on the wall seemed darker, more defined, as though carved deeper overnight. Elena tried to convince him to leave, but Nate was drawn to the mystery. The symbols, he insisted, were part of some forgotten folklore. But what he didn't know was that those symbols were warnings, a curse left by a watchman who guards the land. And once seen, the watchman never lets you go.
Yeah, let's stay and decode ancient curses sounds like a smart choice, right? And as the night fell again, they'd realized just how serious that curse was. That night, as they lay in their tent, the sounds returned. Louder. Closer. Shadows moved across the tent walls, figures slipping in and out of view, just out of reach. And then, a single, cold voice whispered Nate's name. When he opened his eyes, he saw a face, thin, hollow, with eyes dark as night, staring down at him through the tent fabric. Nate froze, unable to scream, unable to move. And just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. Ever wonder if those nighttime sounds outside your window are just the wind? As dawn broke, they thought the worst was over. But the curse of the watchman doesn't stop when the sun rises, it only hides, waiting. Back home, they tried to forget. But the curse had marked them. At night, they'd hear the same rhythmic knocking. The shadows returned, slipping through windows, reflections. And always, that face, watching. One night, Elena woke up to find Nate standing at the foot of their bed, staring blankly at the wall, mumbling in a voice that wasn't his. He's here, he never left. Ah, sleepwalking, except it's more like sleep cursing. They brought something back with them from that cabin, and there was no way to undo it. In desperation, they found an old historian who knew the legend of the watchman's cabin. The watchman only appears to those who ignore his warnings, he explained. To break the curse, they have to return to the cabin and complete an ancient ritual. They returned to the forest, finding the cabin just as they'd left it. As they stepped inside, a chill filled the air. Nate began the ritual, and just as they were about to finish, the watchman appeared, closer than ever. Talk about high stakes. But just as the watchman reached for them, the ritual completed and the figure faded, disappearing into the shadows. The curse was lifted, but the watchman's shadow never truly left them. Even today, Nate and Elena keep their curtains closed at night, the whispers and shadows lingering at the edges of their dreams. The cabin, they say, remains hidden, waiting for the next unfortunate visitor. If this story sent a chill down your spine, Don't forget to hit that like button. Let me know you enjoy these dives into the unknown. And if you're ready for more stories like this, consider subscribing to stay updated on our next mysterious adventure. We're just getting started.